Hello and welcome back to Timmy Academy. Today we are going to do our first educational video, and it is going to be on how to evaluate a collection for purchasing. This is pretty much going to be one of the most important parts of selling cards and ensuring that you, at the very worst case scenario, break even, and in the best case scenario, try to turn a 10% to sometimes 20% profit, but I usually shoot for a 15% profit and look at a 10% profit as my baseline. So we're not really going to do any infographics or anything fancy on this channel, so maybe a whiteboard or something in the future, but for now it's just going to be a conversation. So when you look to buy a collection, the first thing you're going to look at is how large is the collection, what the makeup of the collection is, and how much time it's going to take you to flip the cards and turn your profit. There's many variables here. First is how large is the collection, right? There's a difference between a $600 collection, say, and a $6,000 collection. If you're hoping to make 10%, or you're shooting for 20 and being okay with 10%, then a $600 collection is only going to net you $60 at the end of it, and that's after shipping and shipping, packaging, shipping fees, your time packaging, sorting, grading, listing, selling, talking to people. It's a lot of work. So is a $600 collection worth it to buy? It is, but is it worth it to buy depending on the makeup of what the collection looks like? So how I like to evaluate it is on those 3 or 4 metrics, right? How large is the collection? Is it worth my time to pick up? Sometimes the smaller ones you can turn a larger profit on, so it might be worth it to pick up a few smaller lots and combine them all together, grade them all at the same time, do one sales listing, say on Facebook or something like that, and list the rest on TCGplayer or so. And at other times it's just not worth it. Maybe it's a bunch of $3 cards that comprise a TCG low amalgam of $600, but to list, to grade, to put the stamps on every envelope, you always have to assume that you're going to sell each one individually on TCGplayer at a 18.5% average fee, and then add shipping on top of it. We'll get deeper into that in a couple other videos and fees and structure and where to sell and all that kind of stuff. But now we're just focusing on how to evaluate a collection. So the size of the collection is always important. The second variable is the makeup of the collection. So how much of the collection is comprised of $20, $30, $40, $50 cards and above, and how much is comprised of $1, $2, $3 to $5 cards, $10 cards, that kind of stuff. Third is the condition of the collection. Is it overall near mint LP? Obviously there's a difference there, but that's going to be kind of your sweet spot when buying and selling. Or is it a little rougher as far as, moderately played, HP? Not that these things don't sell, and not that they don't have a market, but they sell a lot slower. So you have to think about that in terms of your turnaround and your liquidity as far as buying your next set and buying your next collection. So, and the fourth one I would say is the oddity of the collection. So sometimes oddity is good and sometimes oddity is bad. But once you kind of wade into the market a little bit, you can figure out what works for you. And also, the more people you know and the larger your community grows, you tend to find those people that buy all your foils or buy all your foreign cards or really love this or really love that, and you start to learn what people's I like to call it magic fetish, what people's magic fetish is, what they like to collect. And so one thing I do is I'll stack up randomly. If I know John Doe over here buys all my foreign stuff every month or so, or every 2 months, or that's really what he's into, I'll stack it all up and set it aside when I'm sorting collections, and I'll give him an awesome deal, and I'll unload it all in one shot. Because if I've already broken even or hit my cost basis for those collections, or not counted it in the evaluation of the collection, then it works both ways. It works out for everyone. I'm able to give him an awesome deal, so therefore he becomes a stronger customer, becomes a friend, and I'm able to unload all this without the time and the packaging materials of sending out 60, 80, 100, 1,000 different envelopes. So oddity can be good. Oddity as far as things that are just scarce to come across, like Alpha Beta Unlimited, Arabian Nights, Legends. If you know places where if you know markets and people and groups that you can unload these things fairly easily, then there's not a risk in picking those up. And if you could get some of those things, reserve list cards, vintage cards, for 30%, even 20% below TCG low, you might be able to unload them direct for 10% below TCG low and make a net 10% profit. Or something that I like to do is I like collections that are an amalgam of varying different, like a balanced collection. So many different high-end $100+ cards, and then many different formats. So some Commander, some Vintage, some Alpha Beta, Reserve List, even some Modern, some Standard, that kind of stuff, and kind of have it all over the place. And then if I am looking to keep some of the Alpha Beta and Unlimited, or some of the Reserve List cards, Arabian Nights, if you don't know already, I'm working on a full Arabian Nights set. It's almost there. I just need a few key cards and then just some random smatterings of small bulk stuff and commons and uncommons and some of the variants and whatnot. But if there's one or two in a collection and I can pick up the entire collection for 30% off, well, then I just lowered my cost basis for those Arabian Nights cards that I need, so I might be able to get them for pennies on the dollar, or free potentially, if I can turn a profit on the rest of the collection and slide a couple cards into my binder. Then it's a net zero sometimes, and I just put some cards in my binder. Getting high on your own supply, if you will. So those are bad side of oddities. So oddities can also be a detriment if your connections in your community aren't built to the point yet where you can kind of unload all your foils, or unload all your foreign cards, or unload all your misprints or signed cards. It goes back to the magic fetish thing. Everyone's got a fetish. There's a market for everything in this cardboard craziness. So, but if you're not set up for that yet, it can be hard to move those strange pieces to get that liquidity back into your bank account, back into your wallet, back into your PayPal account in order to buy the next collection. So oddity is certainly a factor, and that's the one that's kind of an oddball and is a case-by-case basis. You have to determine what you're comfortable with as far as buying a collection and what it looks like. Altered cards are also on there as well. They can be strange. I mean, technically, are they damaged? But if there's a market for them, there could be a premium. Same goes with signed cards. Some people consider them damaged, and some people pay a premium depending on the artist. Chris Rush and Quentin Hoover carry a fairly large premium. Two of the, I mean, personal favorites. Like I said in one of my previous videos, I have a collection of Meekstone and Lightning Bolts, and I just mindlessly collect them and keep shoving them into binders every time I come across one, because I love the art and I love the artist. But because these gentlemen have passed away, sadly, their signatures are valued higher, and they're two of the most iconic artists in Magic history. You can't just send away and get a card signed by them, like you can with a lot of the artists that are still do that kind of thing. You can send them some cards, some cash, and they'll sign cards for you and send them back. So some artists carry premiums, and some artists carry very high premiums. And then there's people like Mark Tedden, whose art is amazing and who does some of the most iconic cards in the game and does insane altars. If you've never seen Tedden's altars, go online right now and Google Mark Tedden altars, and it's some of the coolest stuff that I've ever seen in this entire game. So things like those are rare and awesome to come by, but you have to know where to go and how to navigate the markets in order to offload them and get the premium that they deserve, and to get them to a proper home. I mean, a lot of this is it's all about making people happy, right? This industry, just like so many other industries, it's a service industry. Customer service, and it's not even customer service, it's wanting what's best for everybody on both ends of the deal, right? On buying a collection and making sure that the person who's selling the collection, whatever they're going through in their life or whatever they've got going on, that they feel good about selling you the collection, because they know it's going to a good home, because they know you're not ripping them off, because you're being transparent, because you're giving them as much as you possibly can for it, because that's what it's worth. And on the other end, your buyers, the people that you're selling singles to and all this stuff, making sure that they're getting a good deal on the other end, and also that these weird things and signed cards and altars that are very rare, or reserve list cards or anything, the feeling of it going to someone who's going to collect and enjoy it and put it in a deck, or get it graded, or just really love the cards is an awesome feeling. I mean, that's what it all should be about, right? And in the middle, there's people like me and potentially people like you who turn a profit there. But as long as everyone's taken care of on both sides, then it becomes this really amazing community. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So, evaluating a collection. Those 4 parameters are going to be the 4 important things to look at. Now, when you're buying a collection, sometimes it's hard to determine what the worth of the collection is, and that's very important. So there's 2 types of buys, right? There's the type of buy where someone's selling, they don't really know what they have, they've got a big bundle of cards, they don't want to take the time to go through and grade the cards, go through and make a list, and they're just like, this is a box of cards, I want X amount of dollars for it. That can be good, and it can be bad. I've told multiple people that I've bought from, if I find a $1,000 card in here, I'll give you a call and let you know, hey, I give you $100 for this box of cards, and there's a $1,000 card in here. Do you want the card back? You know, I'm happy to pay $100 for the rest of this. Do you want me to sell the card for you, and you know, we can split profits on it? You know, what do you want to do here? But I mean, that's never happened. I've never bought one of these random lots and found a, you know, unlimited land or a dual land, or you know, a piece of power, black border power, or anything like that. But the possibility is always there, I suppose. And then the other type of collection buying, which is once you get far enough in, this is kind of what you're going to be doing on the regular, is someone has cards to sell. They want to sell it in one lot. They don't want to do the work or take the risk of piecing it all out and selling individual cards. So they sell it to someone like me for 70% below TCG low. So in that case, you get a list of the cards, you talk about price, you negotiate, and you come to a deal that works for both of you. 70% below TCG low, I would say, is the industry standard. It can vary from 60 to 70%. A lot of it depends on the makeup of the collection, but that's going to be majority of your bread and butter. And when I talk about turning a 10% profit on a collection, that's what I'm talking about. Getting the list, going through the conditions, going through everything that's there, and taking that 30% discount that you're getting, paying the 20%-ish in fees and shipping and all that kind of stuff, and then taking the 10% cut at the end. I mean, by no means is it an extremely lucrative way to make a living or attempt to make a living. But if you are willing to sit at a desk for, you know, 16 hours a day and pack and ship and, you know, talk to customers and talk to work on deals and all that kind of stuff, then, you know, it's, I mean, to me it's fun. I love messing around with cards all day. So those are your two types of collections, and the second type is a lot easier to evaluate because it's pretty straightforward. TCG collection tracker list is the best way to do it. Essentially, the person who's selling the collection inputs everything into the collection tracker, and then it's got a low, mid, and high rating for the entire collection, and you can sort it and manipulate it, so all the data is there. And the TCG low tends to pull from the near mint and LP low. So usually it's the LP low, current listed low on TCGplayer.com. So once you get into MP and HP cards, that low value doesn't hold up as much, because the TCG low for LP, which shows as the TCG low, might be $25, and an MP copy lowest listed on TCG Player might be $23. So you have to be careful with conditioning. So that type of thing is fairly easy and straightforward. And the harder one to evaluate is when someone's got a big box of cards. And yeah, I mean, honestly, without it being a local collection, I kind of don't bother with that anymore. If I can go and sit down with a person and they're open to chat for an hour and riffle through the cards so I can see general overall condition, I mean, most collections are going to be, most player collections are going to be mostly near mint LP, double sleeve or sleeve everything, and then some of the older cards, or you'll have some oddballs that are MP or HB. Sometimes some of the higher end cards they might have bought in a MP or HP condition because it was still sleeve playable and they wanted to play in a tournament and they just wanted a cheaper copy, that kind of thing. But for the most part, collections are going to have an overall condition, is what I like to call it. You know, you'll notice that most collections were either well kept and everything's near mint, or they were fairly well kept, but you know, they might have been sitting in a box and moved around from place to place for a while, and so they're mostly LP, or you know, person never played with sleeves, didn't give a shit about the cards, and you know, they're mostly MP, or just like they're completely thrashed, like spilled water on them, that kind of stuff. And you know, those kinds of situations, I can give you $10, I don't know, or you just walk away. That kind of collection is harder because you have to. Usually, I take with the person. What do you want for this? You know, what are you looking to get out of this collection? And then I'll kind of sort through and see if the value that they want is there. Okay, can I break even off this? And then can I make a profit off of it? And sometimes it's worth a gamble and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you just have to walk away. Back in the beginning when I started doing this, I think I bought everything I came across and made so many poor decisions and probably lost a bunch of money. Fake cards, condition issues, you know, buying lots that were mostly $1 to $2 cards in like TCG average pricing, and then you go list them on TCGplayer, and an MP copy is worth 65 cents for TCG low listing. Also, for anyone who doesn't know, TCG low listing is that's kind of the industry standard for how cards are priced. What you can buy it for right now on TCGplayer at its lowest price. So if you sell on TCGplayer, it's pretty easy to pull up the seller portal and you can find the lowest listing for anything just by typing in the card name in the inventory. If you're not a seller on TCGplayer, it's a little harder to pull that value, although you can use the scanner app, and on the bottom where it says U on the very right hand side, you can go to that and click settings and then set that to pricing as marketplace low, and that will auto-populate the TCG low. So when people say TCG low, that's what they mean. It's the lowest listed, usually for LP, currently. So that's what you can currently buy it for. And then, you know, most places when you're buying direct from a seller, places like Facebook or, you know, once you start to get into those direct sales, industry standard is 10% below TCG low, is considered a decent deal because you're making a little more than you would listing on TCGplayer with fees, and the buyer's getting a really good deal because they're buying for 10% lower than they can on TCGplayer. So that's kind of how that works. We'll go more into depth on that later. So that's basically the first, when you enter into a discussion about buying someone's collection, that's where you start. Okay, is this a big lot of cards that I have no idea what's in here? Or is this someone sending me a list with conditions and they know what they're doing and they've done the work and they've put in the time and the effort, and we're going to now negotiate on a price that works for both of us. So next is the makeup of the collection. I really like collections that are well balanced between staple cards. First of all, you know, sometimes you buy lots and, you know, there's no staple. There's a bunch of cards that are worth money in there. They're valuable, but they're not exactly staples, or they're on their way out of standard, or they're, you know, a deck that's kind of being retired in modern. So there's not a lot of demand for the cards, though they still hold value. You have to kind of look at that and know the market a little bit and know what's being played where. You don't have to know the meta of every format, but knowing generally what's happening and how the metas are evolving, and then like what's hot in Commander is always a market driver. You know, who said what on YouTube or some other thing about a deck and like, or said something about a card will make them spike. You know, if this person has weight. So there's a few channels out there that if they say something, that a card will spike the next day, you know, about this worked really well in this Commander deck, etc. We won't go too far into that. But so staples, things that are being played currently or have a lot of heat behind them right now, and then the values of the cards. So you don't want necessarily to pay 70% for a collection that's all $1 to $3 cards, because if you list that on TCGplayer and then they take a 30% processing fee, so already you're at 30% for a dollar card, and then they're taking a fee on top of that, a 12% fee. Now you're at 42%, and then you're looking at cost of a stamp, cost of envelopes, cost of top loader, cost of address labels, and then your time, and you're up over 50%, 60%, 70% in cost for that $1 card. So if you buy a collection that's all $1 cards and you pay 30% below TCG low, you're going to probably lose a decent amount of money. So having that balance of some $1 to $3 cards, I mean, it's hard because people want to get rid of everything, right? And it's also hard when they're looking at a TCG low value for their collection and they've got 2,000 25-cent cards, and a few, high dollar cards and whatnot, and they're saying, well, my TCG low evaluation is at $500, and that's a hard conversation to have, and say, well, most of that $500 is cards that can't be sold as singles online. It's considered bulk, and it's worth about $5 per 1,000 cards if you're lucky. So making sure that there's here's how I like to do it. I like to look at, say I'm buying a $5,000 collection, right? You want to have enough high-end cards and high-dollar cards that within a week or so, you can turn those high-dollar cards and break even on the collection. It doesn't matter how much it is, $5,000, $2,000, $1,000, whatever. I've found that model works really well, because within a week, that you can sell 20 cards, say they're all $50 cards, and the collection costs you $1,000. Within a week, that you can sell these 20 staples and make that $1,000 back. And then you list the rest on TCGplayer, and they sell over 2 or 3 months, and then your profit trickles in over 2 or 3 months. And if you're continually doing that, then you're continually getting that profit trickle. You see what I mean? So being able to turn over your initial investment in the collection quickly is a large part of evaluating the collection. As we go further into this, I almost think we should break out these 4 principles into an entire video for each one, because I could probably sit here and talk about it for 30 minutes on each principle. But we'll just do an overview, and then on the comments below, let me know, do you want to go more in depth on all these different principles? So the third one is condition. Condition can be tricky. I hate to say it, but a lot of people don't generally know how to grade cards, or maybe I'm just a very strict card grader. Pretty much to me, if it's not flawless or near flawless, it's not near mint. If it's got a nick, a scratch, some minor scuffing, any sort of edge wear, it immediately becomes LP. Now, the tiniest of nicks and the tiniest of little imperfections, I'll let that slide on certain cards. If I'm selling a high-end card to someone directly, and it's, I consider it near mint, I'll still probably say something about, there's this tiny little, nick on the side over here. Just want to make you aware of that kind of deal. So that's to start. Most people I don't think are that strict on grading, and I say that because I've bought a lot of cards, and most times when I get a card that was sold to me as near mint, I take it with a grain of salt. I know